Good morning. This is Dave in Vegas from Sin City Custom. I'm now going to demonstrate how to reassemble your 1911 pistol. If you viewed the previous video, you'll see the last two assemblies that I disassembled was the mag catch and the mainspring housing, and so now we're going to put those back together. So we take our mainspring housing. Here's our mainspring housing pin retainer, the mainspring cap, and the mainspring cap pin. We'll put the mainspring housing pin retainer on the spring, the mainspring cap on the spring, and we will insert them into the mainspring housing pin retainer first. We want the mainspring cap, which has the little dimple in the top, we want that to be on the top when that one goes in last. Again, we're going to use our punch mounted in a vise to depress the spring. From the back side of the mainspring housing, we will insert the mainspring cap pin. That spring is stiff, so you don't want to let it get away from you. Next, we will reassemble the mag catch. We'll take our mag catch lock, put the spring on it, and insert it into the mag catch, and using our tool, we will line the tab up with the slot, compress the spring, and rotate counterclockwise the mag catch lock. So those two parts are ready to install. Next, we'll insert the trigger. You'll notice on the back of the trigger stirrup, it's slanted upward and forward. We'll insert it into the trigger track. Make sure it moves freely. Then we'll put the mag catch in. The mag catch holds the trigger in. So pushing on the mag catch lock from the right side, we'll also push on the mag catch from the left side, and rotate the mag catch until it locks in the slot in the receiver. Make sure it moves freely. Now here's where a lot of people get into trouble. We have the disconnector and the sear. You'll see there's a slot in the sear, and it goes on the disconnector. When it's in the gun, the two holes must line up. You'll see that there's a crescent-shaped cutout on the back side of both. Line them up. Now we will insert the two parts into the receiver and push them in until we can see that the holes line up. They do. I want to make sure they do, and I'm going to make sure, even though I know that I did get both of them, I want to make sure that they are both lined up with the holes. Gently set it down and gently remove the pin or the punch so that you can insert the sear pin. There we go. Now we can install the hammer. We'll take the hammer and the hammer strut, do the same thing, line up the holes, insert the hammer pin. Now I move the hammer strut out of the way so I can put the sear spring in. Now the sear spring installation is critical here. So we're going to try to see if we can do this. You'll see two legs on the sear, and you'll see 3 legs on the sear spring. The left leg this portion of the left leg will ride on this leg of the sear. This is imperative. It's critical that it's done right. So I put the sear spring on the leg of the sear and move it down so that the notch on the sear, or the tab on the sear spring, fits in the notch on the receiver. And I'll hold it down with my fingers. Then I will install partially the mainspring housing. Next, we put the grip safety on. Now I'm going to cock the hammer so that the hammer strut, if you'll notice, there's a groove in the let's see, can you see it? You can see a groove in the bottom of the grip safety. The hammer strut rides between those grooves, and we'll cock the hammer until the hammer strut goes into the dimple on the top of the mainspring cap, and then we'll push the mainspring up into the receiver. Now we take the mainspring housing pin, insert it into the frame. I can feel, when I pushed it in, I could feel it also went into the mainspring housing, and I give it a good wrap and it goes in. Now I'll cock the hammer back, insert the plunger, and now install the thumb safety. The hammer has to be cocked to install the thumb safety. I'm going to use the tool that I have. I'm going to depress the plunger, and I'm going to push and rotate at the same time the thumb safety. Thumb safety moves freely, the hammer moves freely so far. We'll do a final check on those when the pistol is completely reassembled. Now to the slide. We insert the extractor into the tongue for the extractor. This one's a little tight, so I'm going to tap it in. Gently tap it in, or you'll go too far and you got to push it back out. Now, at this point, I'm going to use the firing pin stop and make sure that it moves freely in there. If I haven't gotten the extractor in all the way, or it's in too far, the firing pin stop won't go in. So now we'll put the spring back on the firing pin, twist it so that it goes all the way on, insert the firing pin. Now we have to partially insert the firing pin stop so there's room to depress the firing pin. Once that's done, you push it forward and the firing pin snaps into place. You want to make sure that the firing pin moves freely. Next, we will put the recoil spring on the recoil spring guide, and we'll put the barrel bushing on the barrel. Remember to rotate the barrel link pin, or the barrel link rather, to the forward position. Insert the barrel bushing, rotate it clockwise. Now we bring the link to the rear position. We'll insert the recoil spring and the guide, and install the slide onto the pistol, making sure that the hole in the link lines up with the hole in the receiver. Now, you want to be careful when you're doing this. When you lower this in there, you want to not let the slide lock rotate on the receiver. It will scratch it. Now, lining up the disassembly notch with the slide lock, depress and rotate up slightly and lock it in. And we put the recoil spring plug on the recoil spring, depress it, hold it, and rotate the barrel bushing until it locks. We'll check the slide to make sure it moves. We want to make sure the hammer doesn't follow the slide. We also want to make sure that the grip safety works. So we're going to squeeze the trigger and the grip safety is holding. We want now to engage the safety, depress the grip safety, and squeeze the trigger. And the hammer does not fall. Next we want to ensure that the hammer doesn't fall when I disengage the thumb safety, and it doesn't. Now we do want to see if the hammer falls. We're going to depress the grip safety and squeeze the trigger. Everything seems to be working fine. Now we can reinstall the grips. Being careful again not to damage the customer's grips. And again, making sure that we don't damage the customer's grips. I'll put a rag under that one side. And put the grip screws in. And our reassembly is complete. Again, we'll make sure that the hammer doesn't follow the slide. The grip safety works. The thumb safety works. The hammer doesn't drop when the thumb safety is disengaged. And depressing the thumb safety, squeezing the trigger, the hammer falls. Well, I hope that you found this beneficial and instructive. You'll notice that I did not cover a lot of things that I could have covered, such as lubrication and the orientation or the relation of the parts, or the parts in relation to each other. I will do those in subsequent videos. So next time we will cover lubrication of our 1911 pistol.